Thinking Basketball Podcast. My name is Ben. Welcome back to another emergency playoff podcast. It's Friday, May 2nd. I should probably start timestamping these because we're jumping on whenever crazy things are happening. As of right now, most of the first round is set. The Nuggets and the Clippers tied the series last night 3-3, so we'll have a game 7 tomorrow, and the other big game tonight is the Rockets and the Warriors. We may get to that. I was able to rein in for this show none other than ESPN's Bobby Marks. Bobby, how are you doing? How are you handling all of the playoff madness? How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. This is the time of year I wish I lived on the West Coast. That's what I will say. I was in LA last week for work and saw the Clips and the Lakers, and it was so refreshing to be in bed at like 10 o'clock and not have to worry about NBA games. But like these games, I mean, it's like you're like diving in back into bed at 1:30 and you're getting up at 6, and it's just like you're tired before you actually are tired again. That's how it is.
It's funny because I'm on the West Coast and that's actually how I feel. Like the 10 o'clock, the adrenaline from the game ending at 10 o'clock means you cannot get to bed right away afterwards. And then depending on what happened, we go like right into production on different videos or things like that the next morning. So it's wild. But I mean, we're getting like a lot of talk and on the last episode, Cody and I discussed this. I mean, this first round has been one of the best first rounds that I can remember. I mean, I've been watching the league for decades, and we may end up only with one game 7, but I just think the quality, the intensity, some of the battles outside of the occasional Cleveland Miami. I mean, it's been absolutely wild.
It's like the roller coaster, right? It's such a like I said when Westbrook in game 1. In the Denver Clippers series, when he had at the end, I said it's like the Russell Westbrook roller coaster, right?
Yep.
Just get on, and I don't know where it's going to lead you, but it's going to lead you somewhere. And it just shows you like every game is there's a different identity to each game. I was in LA when I saw the Clippers run them off the court in game 3. And we went on in studio the next day and we were like, this Denver team's done, man. Like there's like no pulse to this team. Yeah. And then you get an Aaron Gordon, buzzer beater. And then you win a game 5. And now, you lose game 6. And now we get back to game 7. And it's the same with like Golden State, Houston. Like Houston runs them off the floor, basically a different style of play in game 5. And I don't know what to expect tonight in Golden State. Is it the immaturity down the stretch of Houston? Is it the Jalen Green show? Is it Jimmy Butler? It's just so hard to predict as far as what we get. We get every night.
That's such a great point, because one of the things we've talked about before, when coaches are adjusting matchups or making tweaks from game to game, especially early in the series, but now with some of these series even later in the series, you get to about the 3rd or 4th game and you start to run out of big match sort of tweaks and adjustments, but you get different identities. So it was game 4, that Clippers game 4 you were talking about, where they started throwing that weird zone at the Nuggets. Coincidentally, the Rockets did the same thing in their game 4 against the Warriors. We had member content for patreon.com/thinkingbasketball, or if you just want to get those videos on YouTube, we did a whole member breakdown of this zone. And what's fascinating about this is that it's different in that game compared to the next game, because the coaching staff is going to have the day or two to digest it. You're going to get to walk through it. So you only have this brief moment. And I'm thinking about Warriors Rockets heading into tonight, which of course reminds me of 2022 Warriors Grizzlies, when they were up 3-1, went to Memphis, got blown off the court by like 1 million points. And you come back to that game 6, it's back in San Francisco. It's a totally different dynamic. Little things like the way the game is officiated, but even the way you prepare, your rest. Jimmy Butler's got a sore pelvis. Steph Curry probably has does anyone not have a sore pelvis on the Golden State
Warriors? Or an abductor, right? I mean, there's something.
So I like all these things. I mean, injuries, adjustments, intensity, the way the game is called in these close series, it really makes it just radically different from one night to the next. And for me, let's stick with the series going on. Let's stick with Houston and Golden State. The one thing I know to expect is that Golden State's not going to be down by 30 points at halftime
No.
in this game, right? The start of the game is going to look different. Some of the energy levels and everything that started to happen at about the 6 or 8 minute mark of the first quarter, that's all going to look different. Does that mean it's, a Warriors win, or it's not a slugfest, or the Rockets can't shoot well again? No, but I mean, the variance of shooting, I left that one out, Bobby. Like last game, they were shooting 90% effective field goal percentage at halftime or something. Come out, you miss your shots tonight, it looks different.
Well, and they were what, plus 13 in free throws made in the first quarter, or I think like right off, it was like the stat line for like across the board was so unreal. I think the one thing that I'm expecting a close game. What I'm interested in Golden and Houston's been so good in the clutch during the regular season. I think they had like the sixth best record in clutch games. I think they were tied with Cleveland maybe for most wins, but then we saw in games 3 and 4 in San Francisco, not so great, right? Not so good. So certainly game 4 was like, what are we doing here? Like certainly opportunities. I'm interested in the Adams Sengun matchup.
Yes.
Like that is like when they go double big, and then they sometimes go triple big, and you get Jabari out there with them. Also, if Jalen is struggling, how much rope does he have? As far as how much rope does Ime have to kind of pull him back in? And can Van Vliet duplicate games 4 and 5? Because before that, he hadn't been very good at all in the first shooting the ball. Hasn't been very good in games 1, 2, and 3. And it's a, as you said, it's kind of like a fascinating, chess match. You kind of know what Golden State is, right? I mean, Kuminga was out game 5. I mean, I don't know if I've seen a injury report on him. Like, I'm not expecting Jonathan Kuminga to be like the savior because he hasn't been in the series here, but they're all rested though. Golden State is the one thing. The silver lining from game 5 is they're rested.
Yep.
We know that because they didn't play the second half there, most of the second half.
Yeah, Kuminga was, I believe, listed out with an illness last game. I don't know if that's going to carry over or if he's healthy, if he's going to play because Butler's there. There's always the domino effect with Golden State of like, how does Jimmy get offense if Steph's off the floor and there's no shooting and the defense loads up to him? And we've seen these things kind of toggle on and off. Like the first half in game 4, it was, should Jimmy Butler be out there? And the second half in game 4 is like, playoff Jimmy Butler is amazing. No one can stop playoff Jimmy Butler. I'm interested to see, going back to the Adam Şengün thing that we've been on for weeks, maybe even a month plus at this point, when they're out there, is Ime going to keep them in the lineup with Steph on the floor and play that zone? We didn't actually get much of the zone in game 5 against Curry after like, I think 30 plus possessions or some massive number of possessions against Steph in game 4. That's an interesting wrinkle for me to look at. You mentioned the shooting. Like, do you adjust at all in your pick and roll coverage if Fred VanVleet is splashing pull-up threes the way he has in the last couple games? I mean, there are all these little things along with the experience. You mentioned the clutch numbers not carrying over. To me, that's not a surprise, not just because the Rockets are young, but because they just don't have a lot of firepower or shooting on offense. And when the game gets tight, you can leave like Amen Thompson. They've played off Amen Thompson a ton in this series, as well as he played in the last game, as insane as his defense was in the last game and that clinic that he put on Steph Curry in the first half. They have done work defensively to say, we're either going to ignore you, sag off you, we can roam guys in certain matchups off you to muck up your spacing, because it's like Şengün's not a shooter, Amen Thompson's not a shooter, Jabari Smith is kind of a shooter, but I don't know how much we can trust him in this environment in this series. So it's really Van Vliet. Maybe if Jalen Green's out there, who knows about Dylan Brooks? This is like the inner game that I think makes game 6 probably so different than the last game.
Well, you're right. And it's why I think Houston's got to be within arm's length the whole game. it just feels like if Golden State gets up to 10, it's like double. It almost feels like double digit. It almost like, it's almost like a 20-point lead, just based on how much work Houston has to do to kind of get back in this game here. If Golden State gets off to a blistering start, I mean, it could be a wrap by the time we get to halftime here. I'm not expecting that. I am expecting Houston to come out pretty strong. I'm not expecting a Laker performance that we saw the other night, how the Lakers came out. I'm expecting game sixes or elimination games, as you know, is the hardest game. Like, they are the hardest games to close, because that the opposing team is basically throwing everything out there for you.
Yeah, let's jump to the Lakers. I had another thought. It's left my mind. There's too many basketball thoughts. I remember the thought now. I've talked myself back into it. The defensive heavy teams, these like low scoring teams. Sometimes I try to explain it to younger fans. I'm like, you don't understand. When it's like an 88-85 game, a 13-point lead is what you guys are used to for like a 20 or 25-point lead. It becomes very, very difficult to score in those games, and therefore mounting a big comeback is hard. But I mean, we have seen stretches where the Warriors go cold and that offense scores like 10 points in 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And we kind of saw something like that in Minnesota or in Denver last year with the Wolves in Game 7, where Denver built that big lead. It ended up being a relatively low scoring game. I want to say it finished in the 90s or right around there.
Yeah.
And just the lockdown defense and the youth all of a sudden makes it so there's a lid on the basket and you can have a comeback. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that game. You mentioned Minnesota, the Lakers. That series just wrapped. That's the team waiting in the next round. Before we go anywhere else, do you have a sense of like Minnesota matching up against these teams? Is one a better matchup than the other? Do you like Golden State over Minnesota but not Houston? How are you feeling?
Well, you get Golden State and you've got home court, right? So you get home court. I mean, it feels like home court in the playoffs is like, it's almost like hockey now, right? It's like, does it even matter anymore? Like,
it's shrunk. It's shrunk. Home court statistically has shrunk over the years. In the 80s, definitely the 80s, but I want to say even through the 90s, there were stretches where the average home court margin was like 3.5 or 4 points better than the road team. That kind of went under 3, and I want to say we're closer to like 2 now. So even in the regular season, just trend wise, home court has shrunk in basketball, so it makes sense to carry through to the playoffs, I suppose.
Yeah. So you get Golden State, you get home court, you get a smaller team. Certainly, you get Houston, you go on the road, and you get a big team, right? Like, from a size standpoint, I don't know. I mean, I think how Minnesota is playing right now, and it's funny. Like, I had to do TV on Get Up. This was like, I don't know, early April. And they said to me, like, who's the one mystery team out there we should pay attention? I said, Minnesota.
Yeah. Yep.
And then the big dummy goes out and picks the Lakers to win the series, right? Like, what? Like, I'm like,
Bobby, I went through this exact same thing last podcast. I did the exact same thing. We started to peg Minnesota as a team to watch.
Yeah.
And then I watched like the first game of the series and I was like, why didn't I take my own advice?
I think Minnesota is, I was talking with a team about this earlier, and I said, if you have 8 good players in the playoffs,
means
a lot.
It's yep.
I mean, when you look at their 5 starters, and then when you get DiVincenzo, Nas, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker,
it's a great bench.
That means a lot. And Lakers didn't have that. I had to do it. I'm sorry, I'm keep on mentioning like TV stuff, but I had to do like a 3D lineup on TV yesterday because we wanted to talk about like the Lakers in the offseason and all this stuff. And I was writing their bench down, and I was like, oh my, like there was so much dead weight, whether it be Alex Len, Markieff Morris, Bronny James, Shake Milton, like the list of players that really weren't playoff guys. Like, and then the Gabe Vincents of the world really never played much, and Jackson Hayes, and we like all that. So as I said, like depth matters in these playoffs, I believe. Minnesota has it. I think they can play different styles of what they They can go big, with certainly with Gobert. I think you can go with Reed, and even if you want Reed and Randall together, you could do that.
Well, he's done that. I think
Yeah,
Chris,
and then you have
credit
the
to
impact.
Chris Finch, right?
Yeah,
He's pushed different buttons, and you even saw it in the closeout game of the series where earlier in the series, Gobert's minutes are way down, and
yeah.
he's relying on the skill and the fit of Naz Reid and Randall, who had an incredible series, decision making, playmaking, scoring, and that's your pairing. And then in this game, in Game 5, it's like no one can block out Rudy Gobert. They have no size for him. We're going to play him bigger minutes. I think he ended up with this insane stat line of like 27 points, 24 rebounds, something like that. So but it sounds like you're kind of liking maybe Minnesota, regardless of who
I
comes out.
am. I know maybe I'm just like that, but prisoner of the moment type thing. But I've watched them all year, and 18. I think they're 18-3 in their last 21 down the stretch. Is like that's nothing you can dismiss here. It's funny regarding Gobert, who was certainly terrific. There was a point in that first quarter where they were trying to throw him lobs, and it was like he couldn't. He had like mittens on, right? Like they were going. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I don't know if Rudy's going to be able to. They're going to be able to keep Rudy on the court here with, And it wasn't defensively; it was like offensively. And then he was like he reminded me when we were little. We used to have that Nerf basketball on the backboard of our room, and that was the thing we used to dunk on, right? And it was like this small hoop, and he was just like a man among boys, and certainly the difference maker for them.
Yeah, that was I think there's a lot of sort of Monday morning quarterbacking about the Lakers, but reviewing the film for the last couple of days, and we're working on some stuff related to the Wolves and Anthony Edwards for video content. And I was just more impressed with how well Minnesota played and how well they executed and the improvement in Edwards' game. And as I mentioned, Julius Randle and just some of the decisions he made. And of course, Jaden McDaniels had an enormous series and just had some huge games. And you forget, sometimes you have these 5-game series and we forget like game 3 and game 4 were not only really close, but they were kind of repeats where the Lakers like were grooving and making big shots, and Rui was making big shots and Luka was making big shots, and they have that lead and you're thinking, okay, the shot making and the talent is going to get them a game on the road. We're going to be 2-2 and we're right back in a rock fight. And it was the Wolves that executed really, really well down the stretch, super close games. That's the difference, and they move on. And I'm kind of with you. Let's see, that series may start. We may do it. We may be able to do a full preview on Tuesday with our normal record time. But even if we don't, I'm kind of leaning Minnesota already, regardless of who the opponent is. Okay, let's talk about the Clippers and the Nuggets a little bit more, because Oklahoma City's waiting in the wings there. I mean, first of all, do you have a sense of one of those teams being able to threaten the Thunder?
Whew. I mean,
Long
it's two
pause.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's two different. Like the Clips. Listen, Derek Jones, even in Dallas last year, and even in this year in the regular season, when there's length on Shea, it bothers him. So maybe there's an advantage, but God, that Thunder team is so good. I mean, like, and it's like the whole year everyone was talking about, can the Lakers, and I'm like, guys, like OKC is like when you have great starting pitching. They got starting pitching, middle relief, closers. Like they got everything in there. They could throw they throw lineups out there that played. I asked our stats guy. There was a lineup in the Memphis series, like where Caruso was out there with. It was like their small ball lineup and Chet. And I'm like, how many minutes those guys play all season? Like 16. I'm like, what? Like, and there's so many different variances here. The hard part with these series is like when you go through a 7-game series, you're basically just knocking the snot out of each other for 7 games, and then you're like, well, what do you got left when you get to when you get a quick turnaround? I don't see it. I don't see either team having a chance against the Thunder. I might be wrong. And you got the Porter Jr. shoulder in Denver, Russ's foot. He's a roller coaster. If you get Murray game 5 in Denver, you got a chance. I mean, you got a chance.
Yeah. The thing is, if you get that shot making, you get that bubble playoffy Murray. Um, you can get it for a game or two, maybe even 3 games. I
Yeah.
mean, even in the bubble, he had one of the craziest stretches ever. He went 50 against Utah. He went 50. I want to say 42 and then 50 or something crazy that maybe only Michael Jordan has ever done. And even at that peak of like everything that we associate with the optimized Jamal Murray, it's still kind of hard to get that for 4, 5, 6 games. You're not guaranteed to win one of those games against a team like OKC. So I'm with you. I just think they're on a different level, but also maybe out of these two teams, the Clippers can kind of do some matchup stuff. The game certainly that they played at the end of the year out here in Los Angeles was now the Thunder weren't at full strength, but Chris Dunn, some of the length and defensive stuff they can throw at him, and then of course Ty Lue. I mean, one thing we have to say about Game 6, which is really interesting heading into Game 7, the Ty Lue move at
Yeah.
halftime to
Batum
put
for Hart, Batum for Dunn.
Batum. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Nico Batum comes in the game, and I kind of started turning into the Vince McMahon meme because the first I like look at it and I'm like, it's length. It's length on Jamal Murray. And then about 2 plays later, they switched to pick and roll.
Yeah.
And I went, oh no. It's so they could switch the pick and roll. And then
Yeah.
they throw it in, and I'm trying to remember if it happened before the half or after the half, but he had that sequence in the game where he blocked Jokic's layup and then stripped him on like the next play. And look, Nico Batum is not going to, at his age and his build against Nikola Jokic is not suddenly going to shut him down. But to be able to put some length on Murray and then also potentially muck up their pick and roll game and also potentially defend Jokic really well without sending a ton of help all the time. Man, I wonder how much we're going to get out of that in Game 7, and if the Clippers can pull through. I feel like that's the kind of card that they can play a little bit more, whereas the Nuggets are just always riding these championship horses of like Murray, Jokic, go do your thing, Porter and Gordon. If you can do your thing, then we're at that level. That's sort of their card that they play.
It's like Denver's like steak and potatoes, right? You know what you're going to get. It's like this is who they are, and then the Clips are like you could have multiple people being X factors. You could have Norm Powell, you can have Batum, you can maybe have Chris Dunn. Like there's all these different things, and I think of course it's going to probably we could maybe throw out everything, and it'd be like, you know what, hey, if Harden has a good game, they got a chance, right? Like,
Yeah.
Like I wrote their offseason article when they were down 3-2, and it's like, he's one of their big decisions because he's potentially could be a free agent. And it's like it goes from like him having such a great regular season, and then you get a Game 3 and Game 4, or Game 4, Game 5, where it was like, where's James Harden, right? And then certainly played better played really well in Game 6 here. So I'm looking forward to it. It's like you'd open it like, yeah, we might only get one Game 7. I'm like, that's good with me, like if it's Clips,
good
Denver,
one. Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah. The funny thing is we haven't mentioned maybe the ultimate X factor for the Clipper, and it's kind of weird to describe him as an X factor, but I think it's the right terminology. Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
In where he's been coming back from injury, some of the things we've seen, he's older, he's got a ton of miles, and you're not going to get like a 2017 everywhere all the time, but in a single game or even potentially in a series against the Thunder, his combination of defensive length, his just incredible strength. They switched him onto Jokic for stretches during that incredible Game 4 comeback, and then the shot making when he kind of gets that aimbot thing going on, right, where he just like starts lasering in mid-range jumpers over and over and over again. That literally could be the difference, because there are games where he's kind of just another part of what's happening for the Clippers offense, and you look in the box score and he's got 18 or 20 points and things like that. But then there are these other games where he just kind of goes off for stretches, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean Kawhi, it's one of those things like, and I remember when this happened in Toronto back in 2018-19, like when you come off a year where he didn't play in San Antonio, and then he starts playing, like, wow, this guy's really good. And I'm like, yeah, it's like where have you been like, yeah, that guy used to be an MVP or an all-star, an all-NBA player. And when he goes right, when he gets his spots going right, I mean, he is pretty pretty deadly here. So there's I think there's a lot of different variables in that game. I think Denver at home, but the Clips have won there before. Like it's basically kind of a toss up there.
Yeah, it's very tough. Before I want to preview some of the, well, there's only two of them, so I want to preview both of the Eastern Conference series. But first, some fun stat time in this series. We all know how good the Nuggets are with Nikola Jokic on the court, and we all know how much they struggle with him off the court. In 45 minutes, Bobby, 45 minutes that he's gone to the bench in this series, the Nuggets are being outscored by 43 points per 100 possessions. That is not good. That is a massive number.
I saw it game 3. He came out. Clips were up 35-28 at the end of the first quarter. You look up at the scoreboard and it was 45-28. It's like, and it happens quick. It's amazing.
Yeah, their offensive rating in those minutes without Jokic. This is a small sample, but we've seen it over and over, and I do think it's reflective of some of the stuff that's happening with the Nuggets bench when he's not out there. I mean, they're shooting 41%, so this is not like some from three. This is not like some weird statistical blip because of bad shooting luck or running cold or stuff like that. Their offensive rating in these minutes with him on the bench is a whopping 91. It's 120 when he's in the game, and 91. You want to do Steph Curry now in the Rocket series? Okay. So Steph Curry has been on the bench for 59 minutes. Not quite as bad for the Warriors. They're only being outscored by about 11 points per 100 possessions when he's on the bench. But the offensive rating is the one that gets me. When Curry has played in this series through 5 games, the Warriors have a stellar 121 offensive rating with him in the game. I mean, that's really good against the Rockets defense, 121 offensive rating. When he goes to the bench, that offensive rating is 88. Those are like 1960s.
That's 80s basketball.
That's even pre-80s. Yeah.
Pre-80s,
it's like 1960s level offensive efficiency. So fun stats there. Let's talk about the East. I'm sure a lot of people are more interested in Knicks Celtics. For me, the starter is actually Cavs Pacers.
Yeah.
I think that's the more interesting series. They had a great kind of home and home in January. If you remember that perked me up. We did a little bit of content. That was the first time I really got sort of Pacers pilled during the season, where I'm like, oh, okay, so wait a second, Indiana can play defense. Andrew Nembhard is this thing that's unlocking something. Ben Shepherd can kind of play as well. And we know they have a pretty reliable playoff offense with Halliburton, and you mentioned baseball already. Siakam is like a different kind of pitch that you can throw in a playoff setting where you can isolate or go to the post or things like that. So Indiana, I think we tracked it over the last 60 games. They played at something like a 58 win pace. Their numbers with their starting, the big four and that full starting lineup that they've used with Miles Turner, Siakam, Halliburton, Nembhard, and then pick your fifth player in and out of the lineup. The win-loss has been fantastic. The point differential has been fantastic. And even though we didn't get to see these teams at full strength all 4 times, when they were out there, I mean, the Pacers ended up winning 3 out of 4. But I feel like the matchup and the minutes is intriguing me enough to think that like Indiana has a decent shot in this series.
Well, they do. I mean, listen, I think the Milwaukee series, certainly when you lose Lillard, I mean, I had picked Indiana to win that series with or without Damian Lillard. I just thought there was such a talent difference that Indiana had compared to what Milwaukee had. And it's interesting because I think if Indiana can kind of get up and down a little bit, certainly kind of work to their strength, what you're seeing in Halliburton is not relying on the 3 ball as his ability to get to the basket because of his length. Now it does present a little bit of a challenge when you get Mobley and Allen there. And Indiana is, and I saw this in game 4, I think it was game 4, the one they won in Milwaukee. And I said, like, Man, when they're reliant on their three, it just kind of keeps the other team in the game here. But when you're making them, you can get such separation there here. But I do think they have the ability to, if they had the ability to attack the basket. But it's this series is going to be interesting. The health of Garland, right? I'm sure, like where he is, they're going to need him. But it's two teams that we were talking about depth earlier. It's the two teams that can basically roll out 8 or 9 players here.
Is it crazy that I'm going into the series and thinking, is Ty Jerome a huge key in this series? Like Ty Jerome's first round and his first round numbers
Yeah.
were unbelievable. Literally at the board we have for our subscribers, patreon.com/thinking basketball. Like Ty Jerome has one of the best box plus minus numbers, some of the best overall metrics across the board in the first round. He's just been really good this year. And you would think there's some level of redundancy, maybe, where it's like you already have Garland, you already have Mitchell. But I feel like he gives them yet another option in a series like this. I'll get to the Indiana side in a second, but just on the Cleveland side, it's like, what can he sustain this? Is this because the defense wasn't as good? Does it go away? And if you're winning bench minutes and you have like that level of player on the bench, is that literally the thing that buoys you above an opponent like Indiana in a series like this?
Well, and I mean, he's a terrific story because here's a guy who didn't play because of an injury last year. And I remember around New Year's, his minutes had started to his minutes had really taken a dive where they kind of went away from him. But man, he was really good towards the second half of the year. He was, as you said, he was really good in the Miami series. He just gives him a different dynamic, the guy that can kind of, play in the mid range. If he had to, it gives him, you don't have to be reliant on you could have Mitchell off the court and still have him on the court. And I think that's why, I said this before the season. I said the Donovan Mitchell minutes in the regular season are one of the most important things to watch because how fresh he is in the playoffs gives Cleveland a chance.
Mm.
And then when you have a healthy Jerome, you certainly see that reason why.
Yeah. The Indiana side for me, the big question is something like, can Miles Turner stretch you out enough that we start to get some of these classic playoff things we've seen where you go, between the defense and Miles shooting, and maybe on the other end, we kind of don't have to worry too much about Mobley and Allen shooting. Maybe we get the double bigs to kind of go away. Maybe it becomes a series for Mobley and less
Yeah.
about Allen. And in my head, like at least at a superficial level, that almost starts with just the thing we started this show with: depth,
Yeah.
talent gap, right?
Yeah.
Because Jared Allen's a good player and he does things really well. And so, yes, on one hand, there's the dynamic between the twin towers and two rim protectors versus one. We saw the Bucks win with this a number of years ago. But on the other hand, it's just like, that's why I go back to Ty Jerome. I'm just like, okay, so if you kick him, if that is a thing that actually happens, is it Hunter? Is it Jerome? And the Pacers, they absolutely need Andrew Nemhard,
Yeah.
Siakam. They need those guys to be out of foul trouble and playing well because they're a different team when Andrew Nemhard's on the court and they're all out there together. But I mean, it's a very fun series.
No, it is. I mean, I know, that Boston, New York will be the flavor of the next 2 weeks here. I think this might be the more competitive series in reality here. And, that New York for me, it's like, as great as Brunson is like, what do you got left in the tank going to Boston? And listen, New York built their roster to take on Boston. I mean, that's the interesting thing here. But I do, going back to, I haven't sent my picks in yet, but I would still probably lean Cleveland. With this group, there'll be, if Indiana's making shots from deep, they're going to be a tough out. But if they're not, can they get enough? Can they get enough stuff in the paint against Cleveland?
For me, Indiana's always at their best when that defense is doing stuff, and then even the defense leading to offense and getting some of those transition opportunities. And so it comes back to guys like Nemhart, but Maybe Neesmith's
Yeah.
success, maybe Turner staying out of foul trouble and protecting the rim. Can Ben Shepherd give you good minutes? I feel like those guys in these high level matchups, because another thing about the Pacers the last couple months of the year, they played good teams really well. And I think they're able to do that and have been able to do that because a lot of these non-household names, they're playoff players.
Yeah.
They're really good, right? And so to your point, if they're holding up and making shots, then all of a sudden I think you've got more than a puncher's chance, because this is a well-coached team. It's a team that fits pretty well. They have a really good identity.
Yep.
That's another thing in these playoffs, right? Like, what's your identity out there? Does everyone know their role? Do they know what they're supposed to do? Yeah, I don't know if you have thoughts on that, but I feel like
Well,
that's really key.
I know we put the Lakers to bed, but it's like, they asked the Lakers for a 2-month period on a defensive identity here. But I think the biggest thing is that trusting your players on your roster. Like Lakers, you could probably maybe trust 3 players on the roster, 3 or 4 players. But when you can trust 7 or 8, and it gives you different variable, as you said, to kind of different, maybe listen, maybe Garland doesn't play and we get more Jerome, or we have the two bigs, or we get more Sam Merrill or DeAndre Hunter, for example, here. But when you don't have an identity and you're just trying to outscore teams, not in the playoffs, good luck, man. Good luck, because the value of each possession is so high here.
Hunter's so interesting because in theory, he's there to make big shots, have some offensive presence in that wing spot. For years we said the Cavs are built like an hourglass, right? They got the 2 bigs and they got the 2 small guys. And what kind of rotating door do we have in these big forward positions that have kind of been in vogue and been so key in the playoffs for the last few seasons? And so it's like, in theory, that's Hunter. Can Hunter do that or hold up well enough defensively to stay on the floor? Maybe that's the first domino that could fall for Indiana. I don't know. Who's next then? Is it Dean Wade? Is it Niang? Like, who? That's one big question on the Cavs side. And then I think, going back to the way we've seen guys set matchups and coaches set matchups, I wonder if we will have throughout the series like the classic 1-to-1, big to big. I wonder if someone will take a center and put him on a smaller player, or if they're going to dare Mobley to shoot a ton, not in the way we've seen in the regular season, like playoff basketball. Like, we will give you 10. You have to feel very comfortable taking 10 threes.
Yeah.
These are the like sort of the immediate superficial questions, because unfortunately we just don't have a ton of tape on these two teams playing full strength.
Right.
So we're back just kind of evaluating like, okay, Cleveland's offense is amazing and the Cavs are a better team in a vacuum, but Indiana's also been really good and they seem to be competitive, but Cleveland has home court and Cleveland probably has more depth.
No, that's a good point. I mean, I think, as you said, there's the body of work during the season is not there as far as these teams playing. It is amazing, though, that a team that gets to an Eastern Conference Finals is basically kind of like the afterthought, right? And we're like reminded, like, no, this team is actually pretty good here.
I think that's the unfortunate reality of when you get so many injuries, and knock on wood, we haven't had that many injuries, which has been part of what has made this an incredible playoffs. I actually only have fairly quick thoughts on the Celtics and the Knicks. I think that's, to me, that's probably going to be the least interesting of the first second round series. Now, if the Knicks turn it around, it suddenly gets super duper interesting because of the way the Knicks are constructed and because of Jalen Brunson's ability to just like manufacture wins out of thin air. The game 6 ending last night against Detroit, when he made that crossover, and Asar Thompson, oh my God, if we're gonna do sort of postmortems on the season, Asar Thompson's defense in that
play
game.
before, the play before where he locked them up and you get a 24-second violation, and then Jalen, and like the Knicks offense is best when it's like the ball's moving. I think like when others are involved and the ball and guys are cutting, and then you get the 24-second violation, and basically you're running the same thing. And I'm thinking, what are we doing here? Right. Like, not, it's so so vanilla, right? Like this is like what it is, and the ability to cross him up and to get such a clear look is pretty remarkable.
The second he hit that crossover, the second that left leg hard planted and Asar kept going, I sort of yelped. Like it was the same sound I made maybe 1999. The Pacers were playing the 76ers, I want to say is like game 3 or game 4. Only a few players can make you make this sound, and Reggie Miller was wide open in the corner for a 3 that won that game and basically the series. And it was the exact same moment where you're just like, oh my God, Brunson is about to be wide open to win the series. And that guy just has total ice water in his veins.
I mean, listen, he's dinged up. He's got the ankle.
He sprayed an ankle every game.
I mean, his strength around the basket is one of the more remarkable. He had that one, like he was literally pinned under the layup, under the basket, and to be able to kind of come around. They'll be in the series. I just look at Boston and
wait, hold on. Before we go to Boston,
yeah,
have you ever seen a series where all 6 games were exactly the same game?
No, you're right. I mean,
it was
the three in Detroit, right, and the 3 in New York, right? It's like they were all microcosms of each other.
It was wild, absolutely wild. There were some strategic shifts and whatnot, but I cannot remember. Every game was just they were locked on each other like a magnet right down the stretch. Let's go to the Celtics and wrap up there. The reason I think the Celtics have such a good matchup here, besides their dominance over New York in the regular season, is actually something you saw in the Detroit series. Detroit, a lot, and they had a ton of success early, and they were a little inconsistent with it in the second half of the series. They liked to take Tobias Harris and put him on Cat, and that cross matching where the center goes on a wing or something like that, and you take the forward and you put him on the center. It blows up the Brunson Cat pick and roll. It blows up some of the starting features of that Knicks offense. And we did a huge deep dive on the Knicks offense during the year. And I agree with you in principle. When they're moving, when the ball's paint, when they can kind of cut and get stuff to kind of secondary action, hey, we have a little advantage here. The ball goes here. Somebody 45 cuts to the basket. That's when they're at their best. But if you take away the start, if you kind of never let them start to get the ball rolling downhill in a possession, you said it earlier, it gets really vanilla real fast. And the Celtics, as a base coverage against teams like this, will go Jason Tatum, you go guard Karl Anthony Towns and switch every pick and roll. And whatever center we have is going to hang out by the rim, and good luck. And until I see some evidence that the Knicks can go past that, I'm just like, I don't know what New York's going to do in this series.
I don't either. I mean, I will pick Boston to win the series. And as I said, the goal when New York made the Bridges trade certainly was to get Boston in the playoffs, to be able to guard these big wings here. Outside of, game 3 in Orlando, Boston is, they're playing their best, I would say, right now.
Someone is telling me in the comments that George Niang was traded for.
Yeah, I heard. So I heard it too. I didn't want to. This is my first time on the show. I didn't want to raise my hand.
No, you have to. This is what I'm talking about. We're just. My eyes are bleeding with basketball, and I was trying to. They have another one though. I'm trying to think of it was Max Strus. That's what I was trying to think of. Yeah. I'm just confusing my Cavalier wings. Bobby, if you have a few minutes to tell us about Sports Business Classroom. Okay. So to support us, patreon.com/thinkingbasketball. It's obviously the best way to do it. That's where we have extra content. Now, for those who are interested, you guys know I always talk about Sports Business Classroom. We literally have alumni that are part of the Thinking Basketball team, core parts of the Thinking Basketball team. So it's an amazing experience. It's an amazing, valuable resource if you want to basically get a career in or related to basketball. And Bobby is now, are you now running everything? Is that?
Yeah, myself and Eric Pincus. This is year 2 for me. I did it last year. It was my first time. It's in Las Vegas. It's July 13th and the 19th. We sold out last year. I'm expecting us to sell out again this year. You can learn anything from salary cap, scouting, video analytics, media broadcasting. We added a fourth major this year, which is athlete representation and NIL, which is certainly a hot topic. The structure is that we have classroom setting. We have people that come and present. It's like you're in college, where we have, whether it be the salary cap or whether it be NIL or how to build a draft board. We had that different NBA, college speakers, people from the league office, the Players Association. We do deep dives at night. It is very hands-on.
How many hours a day if we're 13th through 19th, I think you said,
Oh my God. I was so exhausted by the end of that. I mean, I do a coffee club at 7 a.m. We get going to that. So we do it from 7 to 8. We start at 8. We're done by 5. We do deep dives until 7. You can go watch the games, so you're in the arena. We're there 12 hours. These are high, and it's great networking. It's great resource. We have NBA people that come in. We have general managers that will come in while we're doing the deep dives. I texted Albert Hall and Warren Legary when I was flying home last year from Vegas, and I said, "Listen, I've gone to the NBA Finals with the Nets, and I've done ESPN." I said, "This is probably one of the more rewarding experiences for me."
Yeah.
Just the ability where people who want to get back, who want to work in sports, and you're trying to lead them in the right direction, or we had a lot of people who were thinking about making a career change, who were there. It's not just people in their early 20s. We had 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds, and to be able to give them the resources to, have them think about a career in sports was terrific for me. And we're planning the curriculum for the summer. We are going to change some things around. We're going to add a WNBA component to it because I think that's important. It's important for me because I want to learn how the salary cap works in the WNBA. We're going to add a G League component because I do think when breaking into sports, it's not just about working in a front office. Certainly the scouting angle, we're going to have, how to write up a scouting report, how to break down film. Certainly the salary cap will still be a main feature, and Howard Beck and Jay Adonde, Katie Heindel, we're adding Mike Fratello and Julie Fye, who was with the Suns, from a media broadcasting angle, how to be on TV. We get you on, get you on TV and get you comfortable talking, whether it be podcasts or interviewing people. But it is a terrific experience that I'm looking forward to for a second year.
Yeah, there's a lot of equipment and resources basically in the gym, like it's literally inside Summer League. So booth, podcast stuff, the Thomas and Mack Center there. And I just think it's been running for years now. And I just think it's a great kind of almost like executive style crash course where you also said it, the networking there and the number of people is really wild. Yeah, it's really great.
It's a terrific week. And you can go on sportsbusinessclassroom.com. You can find out all the information regarding the SBC Immersive. There's free information that I've put on there. I wrote a CBA 101. If that is up there, it's like a 225, kind of just simplifying the salary cap. We put another doc up there that has all the transactions from this year since mid-December and how the CBA impacted each one. Just kind of gives you a little bit of a taste as far as, without reading how the actual CBA, kind of some of how these rules are.
Yeah, awesome. And you can get our discount code. You can get a discount with our discount code as well, as always. Bobby, this was a lot of fun. It was
great. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I appreciate you stopping by and allowing me to riff off my frenetic midweek round 1 into round 2 playoff thoughts as we continue to just be consumed and entrenched by this really incredible 2025 playoffs.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks to Bobby Marks for stopping by. Thanks everybody for listening all the way through as always. And of course, hope you are having a great day.